This online presentation, prepared by the staff of LaSalle University's Career and Employment Services, will offer you a step-by-step guide on how to create your resume in less than 30 minutes. A resume is a one-page highlight of your education, experiences, and skills with one goal: to grab the employer's attention and get you the interview. Think of it as a snapshot of your best stuff, not your entire life bio. You will need an updated resume at every stage of your college career, so your best bet is to create one now and update it as you go. You will need an updated resume when you apply to on-campus positions, such as work-study jobs or the competitive resident assistant openings, as well as when you apply for select opportunities such as fellowships or scholarships. You will also need a resume when attending job fairs. This includes LaSalle's Fall Career Expo, which usually happens in October, and our Spring Job Fair in March. Be sure to bring 10 to 15 hard copies of your resume to any job fair you attend so that you can be ready to hand your resume directly to employers. In addition, you will submit your resume when applying to internships and job openings. Be aware that some jobs have extremely short deadlines. Some jobs might close once an employer hits a certain number of applicants or after a one-week window. This is especially true for government jobs. You'll want to have an updated resume on hand. You never know when your dream internship will pop up in an email from our staff at Career Services, or when a professor will announce an opportunity in class and advise you to submit your resume ASAP. Finally, when you contact a professional in the field for the first time via email, either to introduce yourself, inquire about openings, or request an informational interview, you should attach your resume to the email to give that person some context as to where you are in your college career. To create your resume, start by opening Microsoft Word to a blank page. We strongly advise against using a pre-formed template or inserting tables because they don't allow you to easily edit or personalize your resume to your liking. You do not need to be a formatting pro to create your resume. In fact, you only need to know very basic formatting adjustments, such as how to indent using the tab key, how to insert bullets, and how to adjust the font using bold, italics, and all caps. That's it. You can create a very professional resume with only this basic formatting knowledge. As for the font, choose a professional yet legible font at no less than 10 point. Don't try to stand out with a unique font, as it may be distracting to employers and pull them away from focusing on the actual content of your resume. Using a basic yet professional font allows the employer to focus on what matters most: the education, experiences, and skills you have to offer. Also, avoid making the font too small. If employers struggle to read your resume, they simply won't bother and will likely move on to the next candidate in the pile. Finally, many students say they struggle to get the resume to one page. Often, the fix is as simple as adjusting the page margins, as you can see on the right. You will find once you change the page margins from normal to narrow, your resume will expand across the full width of the page, giving you more room to fit your valuable experiences and accomplishments. We will now move on to adding the actual content to your resume. To start, write your first and last name at the top of the document, which you can enlarge a few font sizes to make it stand out. Next, add your address. Most students have both a school and home address. We advise using whichever one is closest to the job you're applying to. For instance, if you're applying to a summer job back at home, use your parents' address so that the employer knows you are local to that area and won't have a long commute. If you are planning to upload your resume onto a public site such as monster.com and you are worried about privacy, you do not have to put your full address. Instead, simply include the city and state. On the next line, list the email address that you check the most often, preferably your LaSalle email, which remains active for 6 months after you graduate. Whatever you do, make sure your email is professional. Do not use an old xoxojenny@aol.com email that you created back in middle school. Gmail is free, so it's time to create a professional, personal email account. List also the best phone number to reach you, and make sure to record a short and professional voicemail. Finally, you can include your LinkedIn URL only if your page is updated and represents you well. Next, you will be creating 4 to 5 headings to organize the material on your resume, which we will outline in the following slides. We advise using these 4 headings since they are the most common and useful for college students and recent graduates. For your first section, we advise starting by creating an education heading, using all caps and bold to make it stand out. The education heading typically comes first for students and recent graduates, since it is your degree that has prepared you the most up to this point for the internship or entry-level job. Use this example to set up your education section. If you have multiple degrees, list them in reverse chronological order, starting with the most recent. For instance, your master's degree would be listed before your bachelor's degree. Write your school name with the city and state, and don't forget the space in LaSalle. Next, write your full degree and make sure you know whether you are getting a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science. Include your GPA only if it is a 3.0 or above. Here is a way to list the GPA of your major if it is higher than your cumulative GPA. You can also include awards, scholarships, and Dean's List honors here since they are educational accolades. Adding a bullet with relevant coursework is optional. We advise doing so only if you have not yet had a relevant internship in the field. Next, create an experience heading to include any paid jobs you have held for a consistent period of time. A steady work history, even in a part-time job, shows employers that you possess a sense of responsibility and have experience working in a professional environment or interacting with the public. You should also include internships here, as well as any other experiences you have gained that are relevant to your major or the job you are applying to. Try to think broadly about the word experience and well beyond just paid work. Think also about any positions you have held or class projects you have executed that are strongly related to the job you're applying to, and thus showcase the skills and achievements that match what the employer is looking for. What you put in this section should be of top interest to the employer. So when thinking beyond paid jobs, the word relevant is key here. For instance, this candidate served as the Vice President of Publicity for an on-campus organization. Even though this position is technically an on-campus activity, it allowed her to gain valuable PR experience that could likely make her a more attractive candidate to an employer in the PR industry. Therefore, this item is best placed here under the experience heading so that it can be one of the first few items that the employer sees and is not buried under the leadership and activities section below. In this section, you can include work experiences and internships, both of which are the 2 most important qualities that employers look for on a recent graduate's resume. When writing bullets for paid jobs that are not in your field, focus on the transferable skills that employers would want you to bring to their company, such as communication skills, teamwork, or time management. You may also include research projects that are related to your field. Marketing majors, for instance, often include things like Banker's Day to highlight the experience they have gained in creating, marketing, and pitching a business idea. Volunteer positions related to the industry can also go here. For instance, say you volunteered as a tutor and you are now applying for teaching positions. Finally, leadership roles and on-campus activities should go here if you executed responsibilities related to your field. For instance, say you're a finance major and you manage your club's budget as the treasurer. Any unrelated volunteer roles or on-campus activities should be featured in the leadership and activities section below. Use this format to list your position titles. Write the company name in bold, followed by the city and state. On the next line, add your job title in italics. Write the dates, including the month and year that you held that job title, and position the dates on the right-hand side of the page. The simplest way to do this? Use the Tab key and spacebar until the last number is flush right. Putting all of the dates on the right makes it easier for employers to scan and quickly follow your job progression. Be consistent. Make sure every company name is in bold and that you included the city and state for every entry. If you abbreviated the month in the dates, make sure every month is abbreviated. Next, add 3 to 5 bullets stating what you accomplished, focusing on the results. Bullets make it easier for the employer to scan. You'll want to avoid dense blocks of text. Think about the outcomes of your efforts, such as planned fundraiser event that drew 500 people and raised $1,600 for cancer research, and skip the bullet that says you cleaned up after the event. Don't list basic job tasks that anyone can do. Start each bullet with a strong action verb, such as increased, achieved, created, managed. Don't use the pronouns such as I or me, and avoid the dull responsible for. Instead, lead with a powerful verb. For example, instead of writing responsible for executing a marketing plan, change it to executed a marketing plan. In our resume handout, we have a list of action verbs to prompt you. Finally, add numbers to make your accomplishments even more concrete. Saying that you increase membership is vague. Adding that you increase membership by 25% is impressive. Ask yourself, how much, how many, and how often, and sprinkle in numbers where it makes sense to do so. Moving on to the Leadership and Activities heading, this section is where you will list your leadership roles, volunteer positions, or on-campus activities, which serve to highlight that you are a well-rounded and involved student. Employers are drawn to candidates with leadership roles and extracurricular activities because it helps to show that you have developed soft skills, such as leadership, communication, and teamwork, through well-rounded involvement outside of the classroom. You are allowed some flexibility with the way that you decide to structure this section. It does not have to match the experience section exactly. Here is one example. This student put the organization name first, then her position title in italics. She did not put anything in bold, which will help her internships and work experience in the earlier section to stand out. You do not have to include the city and state, since most activities take place with your university. Also, there is no need to include a space in between entries, which will help you to save room. There are only 2 rules. Number 1, every item must look uniform within this section so that employers can easily locate what they need. If you want to put your position titles in italics after the organization name, as this student did, keep this format consistent throughout this section. This makes her titles easier for employers to find when scanning, because they expect them all to be in the same place. Number 2, all items in every section must be listed in reverse chronological order. The dates here can also look a bit different than in the other sections. If your volunteer position was a semester-long service, you can write that date as the semester, for instance, spring 2012, like this student did here. If it's a recurring event, say during Christmas or the summer only, you can write the word seasonal after the date in parentheses. It should be noted that not every position needs bullets. You do not need a bullet point to say that you attended monthly meetings, as that is implied by the very definition of being a member of a club. Instead, save your bullets for the most important contributions, or to highlight the valuable soft skills that you have developed. Finally, add a skills section including only those skills that an employer in your industry would care about and that you are very confident with or fluent in. Include social media only if it is relevant to your industry, such as comm, marketing, or DART majors, and only if you are proud of your personal social media accounts. Employers will Google you. Before putting a skill on your resume, ask yourself, if I had to use this application my first day on the job, could I use it comfortably? Or, if the employer in the interview asked me to speak in that language, could I do so without hesitation? If the answer is no, do not put that skill on your resume. You might be wondering, what specific skills should I include in this section? Do include things like computer applications, software, languages you are fluent in, laboratory skills, and any other technology as long as they are relevant to your industry. Include even those applications you think might be obvious, such as Microsoft Word or Excel, in case the employer sends your resume through a keyword scanner and is looking for candidates with specific computer knowledge. What items don't belong in this section? We suggest not listing general soft skills like leadership or teamwork. Instead, it is better to show the employer the ways you've demonstrated those qualities through your strong bullet points in the sections above. We're going to move on to organizing your resume. But first, I'd like you to think about this question. How much time do you think employers spend looking at each resume? It's probably less than you think. Recent studies have shown that recruiters will spend just 6 seconds looking over a resume before making a gut decision to either toss or keep it. Less than 10 seconds is not a lot of time to grab the employer's attention, so your resume must be organized in the best possible way to ensure that you stand out among the other candidates. Within those short 6 seconds, employers focus primarily on the top third of your resume. For this reason, it is essential to put the most relevant material near the top so that it's the first thing employers see. The top third of your resume should include all material directly related to the job or industry you are applying to. Take this student's resume as an example. If you are an employer hiring for a public relations job, you'd immediately see that this student has 2 high selling points: a PR concentration and a relevant internship in the public relations field. You may not at this point even have to look at the rest of her resume to decide to move her resume over to the yes pile. Here's a trick to help you see whether your resume is organized in the best possible way. Ask a classmate who doesn't know about your career goals to help you out by glancing over your resume. You can even promise that it will take just a few seconds. Ask your classmate to close his eyes as you place your resume into his hands. Tell him to open his eyes, then count to 6 seconds and take your resume away. Ask him what job he thinks you're planning to apply to. If your resume is organized correctly, like this student's is, he'd be able to quickly say, "Oh, a job in public relations." If he gets it wrong, think about ways you can move items around to bulk up the top third of your resume with highly relevant experiences, keywords, and skills. All of the items on your resume, then, should be listed in the order of most relevant to least relevant, moving down the page. Within each heading, list your positions in reverse chronological order, from most recent to past. To write the date for a role you are currently in, include your start date, then write the word present, as you can see here. If 2 dates both end in the word present, put them in the order of most impressive. In other words, place first whichever role you want the employer to see first. This section is arranged correctly in reverse chronological order, as you can see with the blue arrow on the right. But sometimes this creates a problem. In this case, the student's most recent job as an office assistant is not relevant to the field she's hoping to break into. Her PR internship, as shown by the yellow arrow, is much more relevant to the student's desired job, so this needs to be the first thing employers see. What do you think this student should do? Our advice to the student would be to split up her experience section into 2 headings. She can create a relevant experience heading to include all of her PR experiences, regardless of whether they are internships, on-campus positions, or class projects. Then we'd advise her to create a work experience heading for all other paid jobs. As you can see by the blue arrow on the right, Within each heading, the jobs are still arranged in reverse chronological order. Using headings strategically like this allows you to keep your resume in order of most relevant to least relevant, while also staying true to reverse chronological order within each section. Here is an example of what a completed resume might look like. Notice that all of the text is aligned along the left-hand side, with only one indent going down the page for the bullet points. In addition, all of the dates are aligned to the right-hand side, and throughout the document there is enough white space. In other words, the material is not all crammed together in dense blocks of text or in tiny font. This creates an overall visually pleasing document with clean lines that allows your most impressive items to pop, and that makes it very easy for employers to scan and quickly locate the material they need. Here is a brief list of what not to do. Don't go over one page. If your resume is more than one page as a college student, it is likely a simple formatting issue that has an easy fix, or you might be including irrelevant material. By keeping your resume to one page, you show employers that you both respect their time and understand what is most relevant to them and the job. Don't use pronouns such as I or me on your resume. You can, however, use pronouns in your cover letter. Don't include anything from high school after your sophomore year of college. Don't use any crazy fonts or colors, as it can be very distracting. And don't include a photo. Since it is illegal in the U.S. to hire based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, the employer might have to discard your resume to avoid any potential doubt or conflict. In addition, do not list interests or hobbies on your resume, since it is seen as unprofessional. And there is no need to write the words "references available upon request," since employers know this and will ask you for them at the appropriate time, usually not until after the interview stage. Once you feel that your resume is nearly complete, use this helpful checklist to make one final review and catch the little details that are easy to miss. First, let's review the overall layout. Ask yourself, is my resume in the correct order so that my best, most relevant material appears at the top? If it isn't, play around with the heading names to ensure that you move all pertinent material to the top third of your resume. Once you have the overall order down, you'll want to look within each heading to make sure that every item is listed in reverse chronological order, from most recent to past. Next, check the bulleted verbs to make sure all verbs are in the correct tense. For jobs that you are currently in, use the present tense, such as organize, promote, and provide. Do not use organizing or providing, etc. In addition, make sure the verbs for all past jobs are in past tense. Be especially cautious when adding an internship or job to your resume, since it can be easy to forget to go back to the job you just ended and change the verbs to past tense. Check your resume very carefully to make sure everything is uniform and consistent. Any small mistakes here will look sloppy and might convey that you do not care enough about the job to pay attention to these small details. Verify that all company names are in bold, all job titles are in italics, and that you included the city and state for each company. Make sure your dates are also written consistently. If you abbreviated September, as this student did, make sure every month is abbreviated. If you included a space between the dates and dashes, as this student also did, make sure all dates have the same exact spacing. These little details can mean the difference between a polished and careless look. Finally, scan the end of your bullet points for periods or the lack thereof. Either way is fine, just make sure every sentence is consistent. Here are some more items you'll want to look for when reviewing your resume for consistency. Check to make sure that you spelled out and did not abbreviate any job titles. This is useful in case the employer sends your resume through a computer scanner, which often scans for full job titles. For instance, junior assistant spelled out rather than JR period. Also, remember that the employer does not know every company name or common LaSalle words. They probably do not know what acronyms like ADP means or what LaSalle ambassadors are responsible for. Be sure to spell out all acronyms that are not common knowledge. While you may know that SNAP means Student Nurses Association of Pennsylvania, if you are applying out of state, that employer may not recognize the acronym. To be safe, spell everything out. Also, since employers may not know what it means to be a LaSalle ambassador or to volunteer at Day Ones, use your bullet points to give context as to what your job role entails so that the employer understands your level and scope of responsibility. Google every company name on your resume to double-check the correct spelling and usage of their name. For instance, you might think it's Media Company Inc., but it could be Media Company LLC. Finally, and most importantly, spell check and make sure to have someone else look over your resume. Often, fresh eyes will catch mistakes you didn't notice, such as the misuse of ITS and IT''S. You can also bring your resume to Career Services during our walk-in hours to have one of our staff members look it over before you send it out to employers. Congratulations! You have finalized your resume and are ready to send it out to employers. It is very important to save your resume as full name-resume so the employer can easily find your resume if they end up saving it on their own computer. Also, saving it in a PDF file ensures that your resume layout stays the same regardless of who opens it and on what computer. The method of sending your resume will vary depending on how you apply. If the job posting links to an online application, follow the directions exactly. If it says to email your application materials, copy and paste your cover letter into the body of the email and attach your resume as a PDF. In the subject of the email, title it Application for and then the job title. If you would like any help with creating or editing your resume, please either call us to schedule an appointment or stop in during our walk-in hours, and our staff will be happy to assist you.